In the warm sun of a June day, a young boy named Evan was out on a walk with his family. Evan was neurodivergent, and because of his special needs, he was highly impulsive. At one point, he pulled away from his family and innocently stepped onto the property of their neighbor's house. He was promptly guided away by his family, and they resumed their walk. The following day, the owner of the neighboring house visited Evan's mother at her place of work. The neighbor stated that if Evan was ever to set foot on her property again, he would be shot. Evan was 7 years old. He could not even formulate sentences. He had to communicate using a communication board like this, and he would have been shot. This scenario is not isolated to this story. All over the world and throughout time, those with special needs have faced prejudice and danger for things entirely outside of their control. My brother Evan is only one of many. It is an issue that has arisen out of perception, more specifically, out of a misperception, one that has been perpetuated by the cinema we consume. Hollywood and the films it produces have warped the public's perception of disabilities to an irreversible degree. It has been able to cause such widespread misconception because it has been this way from the very beginning. In 1897, among the first pieces of film ever created was a short skit titled Le Faux Collégiat, French for The Fake Legless Cripple. Though originally created by the Lumiere brothers, Thomas Edison recreated it in 1898 for his own piece, The Fake Beggar. These two pieces comprise the first ever representation of disability in film, and it was a portrayal of someone faking a disability for their own gain, something that would prove to be shockingly prophetic for the coming years of Hollywood cinema. 59 years later, in 1957, 20th Century Fox released one of the first feature-length representations of a neurological disorder. The film was titled The Three Faces of Eve. It follows a woman by the name of Eve White as she discovers that she is living with dissociative identity disorder. The film became among the first high-budget Hollywood pieces to portray disability as something to be feared. A portrayal that Hollywood has constantly utilized in the years since, in films such as Halloween.
You can feel it, can't you? It's a part of you, Michael. It's a part of you. Say something. Say something, Michael.
Psycho. And Split.
They keep calling us the Horde. The others, you know? Miss Patricia and I, we are ridiculed. Now, we're not perfect, but we don't deserve to be ridiculed.
Films like these and The Three Faces of Eve show exactly how the representations of disability and neurodiversity portrayed by Hollywood have permanently damaged the public's perception. They turn those with disabilities into the other, warping a group of people who have no say about their circumstances into things to be feared, cured, or in many cases, killed. Like the monster at the end of a horror movie, or like my little brother innocently stepping onto our neighbor's property. But The Three Faces of Eve began yet another worrying trend. For Eve's actress, Joanne Woodward, was the first actor to receive an Oscar for the portrayal of a neurodivergent character. But she wasn't neurodivergent. She was, however, the first of 22 neurotypical actors to be nominated by the Oscars for their performance of a mentally disabled character. Including non-disabled actors who have played physically disabled characters, the Oscar nominations and awards grow to over 50. The films they stem from are iconic pieces of filmography that are known and loved by many. Rain Man, Forrest Gump, My Left Foot. But they are all perpetrators of the same issues with representation mentioned before, starring neurotypical or able-bodied actors performing neurodivergent or physically disabled roles. Though all of these issues have certainly cultivated an environment where my 7-year-old profoundly disabled brother would be perceived as a threat, there is one other trend in disability representation by Hollywood that has caused more damage than any other. And it's one that cannot be found in any film study or movie description, despite its unwavering presence since the beginning. In The Three Faces of Eve, it's Dr. Luther. In Rain Man, it's Charlie. In Forrest Gump, it's the myriad of friends Forrest makes along the way. In every piece of cinema representing disability, it's the character known as the neurotypical surrogate. The neurotypical surrogate is the neurotypical character that fills in for everything that Hollywood perceives the disabled character cannot be. They comfort the audience, despite often being cold and cruel toward the disabled character, especially initially.
Ow! Don't make a scene. Ow! Stop acting like a fucking retard.
More often than not, their attitude towards the disabled character changes when they realize that the disabled character can serve them in a beneficial way. The real-world effects arise in the fact that in life, there is no such thing as a neurotypical surrogate, especially in the sense that those with a disability will not and should not try to prove their worth to someone who initially loathes them. Thus, when the surrogate is taken away from the equation, people become confused and angry. They cannot comprehend the behaviors of someone neurodivergent without a Tom Cruise type guiding them through. And thus, they lash out. Through violence, through neglect, through negative means that have been instated by Hollywood's representation of disability. They threaten to shoot. These devices I have been using to share clips with you are my brother's. This is his iPad, and this is my father's phone. He uses both of them to cope with the world, to watch shows and movies that teach him how to understand a world that hates him. But on these screens, he will never see someone truly like him, unless things drastically change. Though films like The Peanut Butter Falcon have done a much better job of representing neurodivergent characters by having them performed by actors who are neurodivergent themselves, the plague of the neurotypical surrogate persists. In fact, you're listening to one right now. Though I speak with experience, I too am a neurotypical surrogate. I am acting as a comforting guide into a world that you are most likely uncertain and unaware of. That is how deeply rooted this issue is. And it will continue to warp our perception until the stories we tell become authentically those of people who are disabled, not communication boards used for emotional effect by someone who doesn't need them.